I feel like volumes as to like the shifts that occurred mostly when I was at the teacher training.
Yeah. Wait, I forgot that you and Janelle met each other traveling. Didn't you meet in Bali or something?
We did. I feel like this seed was planted so long ago. There must have been some sort of soul contract before Soul School was even really born or alive that this is supposed to be done with you both. Yeah.
I think of
Um,
that all of the time when I look at all the friends that I used to have and the few that I feel like came along on the journey with me. I'm like, of all the people, like it's my most wild, like Janelle, like we were the most wild together. And I'm like, who would have thought that we would be like spiritual teachers? Like
yeah.
it's quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting how we met. And, like when you're traveling and you're Canadian from like a small town that no one really knows about, you just automatically say you're from Toronto. And because she's from Toronto, she obviously was like Toronto, Toronto. We're like, okay, fine. We're from like Mississauga and Milton because I was traveling with my stepsister at the time. But after that, it was just like shits and giggles the whole time we were together. And even when we both got back to Toronto, like we'd still catch up and walk like Ruby, like her old friend's dog, and yeah, like we just always stayed connected. So
Yeah. And then you came to our like little Ontario retreat. And I know that was one of like a moment when you first said to us, like, hey, I think I'm going to come and do the YTT in Costa Rica. And I mean, what was it that kind of prompted you to even take that chance and go to that little container out in, where was it again? It was those teepees up in like Markdale. Yeah.
yeah, so I love camping, and not a lot of my girlfriends like to do those experiences with me. So I thought it was like the perfect opportunity for me to step out of my comfort zone, meet some like-minded women, and really just get involved with the Soul School community because I was thinking about doing the YTT with you guys for a long time, like pre-pandemic, or I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's the first one that you had run. Um, but yeah, it just felt like the time for me to get out there more, especially like after the pandemic being like so cooped up and just really feeling like I was yearning for genuine connection with people. Yeah, that's what really made me want to come. But I had also seen you guys post about past experiences too, and it just looked so beautiful. And it's definitely been on my like bucket list to sleep in a teepee. So I'm glad I got to cross it off.
Nice. I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of like my own selfish market research, I feel at this point, but what is it about Soul School that like spoke to you? You said that the seed was planted like 2 years ago. Like how did we keep your interest? Genuinely curious.
I feel like there's always this genuine comfort when I'm interacting, whether it's with you or Janelle or even the people that are in the community. It's just like that instant, like, you're welcome here kind
Yeah.
of vibe that I get. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So,
The psychology of community building is so fascinating. Like I was talking, I have a friend who works at they're like growing really fast and talking about like how to build culture. And literally that word like cult is part of a culture. And it's like how to get people to feel like they are part of the journey with you without making it like a cult. Like obviously you're able to leave whenever you want to leave, but still feeling, I guess, bought into, that their growth is a representation of your growth and that it is like a full evolution of like each individual person's success is the result of like the overall success of community. And I mean, I was pretty new to the spiritual community too. And I can say the same thing that you just like are given such permission to be your authentic self. And most importantly, like express that sort of weird child that was told to behave and be appropriate and polite. And it's like a full reset of like what's socially acceptable, and you realize it's, like, it's actually all acceptable. It's all just about communication and boundaries that make something unacceptable. So yeah, I really resonate with that. Like that
Yeah.
feeling of stepping into a community and just being like, oh, here are all my friends. Cool,
Yes.
cool, 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 cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your experience with the YTT. I know like everyone's always super curious about this Costa Rica destination. There's definitely a
Oh,
lot to say about it.
yeah.
What do you want
And
to?
I was so curious because I definitely like to do, I guess, my market research a little bit as well. I had actually reached out to Sophia, and like I knew she did the retreat the following year, or not the retreat. Oh my God. I always catch myself saying that
It's
because
not a
it's
retreat.
definitely not a retreat.
It's okay.
Um, yeah, I had reached out to her just asking her questions about it, and she didn't want to spoil things for me, and I really appreciate that she left a lot of like details out. But it was an amazing experience, and like I said, I love camping. Like the more off grid, the better. So I was kind of in my like dream space, like living off the land. The food was so amazing. Um, Even like living in like a dorm type style room, it was not so foreign to me because I had been staying in hostels. So I was like pretty comfortable with sharing a room, let alone like a top bunk. um, yeah, because like getting up and down in the middle of the night um, with like no lights was a little bit uncomfortable, especially knowing that there was things like scorpions and tarantulas under people's beds. Like it's all good. We were fine, and I feel like that helps me really overcome a lot of fears that I had about like living in the jungle, because it is like something that I see myself doing long term, like in the future. Um, but yeah, just like living in unity with everything around us and each other. Yeah,
It's
I
funny
think.
how the bug thing is like, I think the biggest parental reprogramming most people face going into nature. Like, wait, why am I scared of this bug? Like, why? And you're just like, oh, because ever since I was little, people are like, ah, bug, kill it. And I mean, right now, low key, I'm living with probably 12 spiders. Like, consciously, I have 3 in the bathroom, I have 3 around my kitchen. And I'm just like, it's not phasing me at all. I'm like, thank you for killing all the, I have no other bugs. I only have spiders. So I'm like, you're actually the most amazing bug to be around. Because, and I thought of all the times I always killed it as a little girl, or even as like a couple years ago, just killing things because I don't even like think about it. It just becomes so reactional.
Yeah.
So that's like a little bit about, I guess, the like actual experience, but tell us a little bit about the curriculum and like what resonated, what didn't resonate, what did you take away with you?
Um, I loved that we did Ashtanga every morning. That was
Mhm.
actually quite a new practice for me because I have never done an Ashtanga class ever. Um, Also kind of went in not really knowing that that's what we were going to be doing every morning. So it was challenging, to say the least. Like I was actually just looking at my journal and what I had like written down throughout the first week of the training, and I just remember being so sore in places that I just didn't think yoga could make me sore.
Yeah,
And I also remember like a lot of mental chatter coming up during my practice throughout the first week. Just like a lot of limiting beliefs that I didn't even realize like my mind was going to until you hear Janelle in the background saying, "I can't hear your Ujjayi breath," and I'm like, "Oh, like shift your focus, okay?
yeah.
Like these things aren't true, so let's go back to the breath."
What were some of those, just curious, what were some of those beliefs, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. One of them actually was, oh, you're never going to be a yoga teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. I kind of laugh now because I just like know that's so not true.
Yeah.
And like I was doing the thing. I was there. I was
Yeah.
in the container to do that exact thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were like also one of the students that really, you were speaking up so much and like sharing your wisdom and perspective and really using like your past education and applying it to this newfound approach, which like I love spirituality because there's so many ways to just do the same thing, which is essentially be aware, like point blank, just like be aware of things. But we can do it with qigong or tai chi or with reiki or with asana or with breath or with meditation or with like, at the end of the day, it's all just awareness. And it really surprises me that that was one of the self-limiting beliefs, because I feel like I'm intimidated by you sometimes. I'm like, oh, she knows so much. Like I'm teaching, I'm like, I know she knows more than me, or like, I'm an expert what I'm an expert at, but I'm still very novice in so many things. And having students like you that I know just are so educated and also like practicing it every day. It's not something you like learned and forgot. I'm just, yeah, I want to see you teach more. Your class was one of like the best classes that went on because you are so sound and grounded, and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So have you taught yet? Have you been teaching any classes?
Not really. I've taught like one online class. It was very short, like maybe 15 minutes, but I followed that up with some breath work
Yeah.
online because I am in a mastermind with Sophia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been working with her for almost 3 months now, and she had all of us basically guide our own call, and that's what I wanted to practice was like my teaching skills, and also just holding space online because I would like to be able to do this type of work and travel. Yeah.
Yeah. But sorry, I feel like I'm so nosy in everyone's life via Instagram. Weren't you and Sarah also planning something together? What was that about?
So Sarah and I live very close to each other.
Oh,
Thank
cool.
And we were roommates. I feel deeply connected with her. Um, like I feel like I have had this conversation with her and like a few of the other girls in the container just about like waiting for our soul family and like feeling like we really found them and that you guys just like perfectly curated the group. Like everyone that was meant to be there was just there. Um, but yeah, Sarah and I connect a lot. Like we'll go to the lake and go for a cold plunge or like go to a yoga class together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
cool.
have talked about collaborating before, but we haven't necessarily started taking steps to do that yet.
Gotcha. So after completing the course, is there any sort of aha moments you had around what your idea of yoga was, and then how Soul School maybe changed that perception of yoga for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just learning that yoga is so much more than the asanas. And I remember when I came home, I was having a conversation with my mom, and she's like, "Oh, do you practice yoga every day?" And I had to catch myself for a moment because I realized that even when I'm not on my mat, I'm still in the practice every day.
Mm.
Yeah.
You graduate with flying colors.
Yeah. I just loved how well-rounded the curriculum was too. With the embodiment and the Reiki component too, I think they just went so hand in hand.
Mm,
And I think you guys dove into like the anatomy part really well too, like talking about the meridians as well. You know, I'm an anatomy geek, so I definitely appreciate that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just love how well it was put together and it just felt so seamless. And one of the things that is also an aha moment to me, leaving the container was that I actually felt ready and prepared to do what I just learned. Like I didn't feel like I needed more learning, I guess you could say. Like, don't get me wrong, I forever will be a student and I will probably take more teacher trainings, but I don't feel incompetent, if that makes sense. Like I feel very confident with the skills that and even just like the learning that you provided us. Um, yeah, that I feel ready.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it so beautiful that post the YTT, you started working with Sophia, who is also not like another YT graduate. And when people ask, like, do you have any support post like the integrative component? And I'm like, I really haven't had to think of that because our grads just kind of like start holding space for the next like um what's it called? What's it
The
called?
generation.
Generation cohort. Yeah, the next like group of women, they're like already being held through like their stories, or they start creating these masterminds and containers, and it's like taken such an ease off the shoulder and really made me think more about the beauty of matriarchal business where there is so much trust and letting go of like the rigidity of having to control everything and you be the one. And it's really, it's been a whole trusting process, and also with no real agenda for it all, and it's unfolding like it's like watching the most beautiful spider just like spin this web that's like as big as your house. And you're just like, wow, I really don't think it's gonna get that big. And you're just like, well, look at it go. You're like, I don't even like really doing nothing, and but doing many things, obviously, but nothing in the sense of, yeah, that rigidity that I think is so common in like the more masculine approach to business. And watching all these women step out using that perspective of, I'm going to honor myself first. And I know that if I do that first, like my business will thrive. I'm going to do what's in alignment with my astrology chart, because I know if I do that, I'll have less obstacles and hardships. And it's like, yeah, it's so empowering and rewarding to watch so many women take that road and like trust, and also be guided by women that are doing it. So obviously it's a lot easier to
It
trust,
is.
but
Yeah.
that's amazing.
That was actually a huge reason why I wanted to do my training with Soul School as well, was because I was already seeing the huge impact that it had on the graduates and everything that they were creating afterwards. Like I knew it was what I wanted to be doing as well. So I just figured what better people to learn from than people that are also creating other leaders.
Mhm.
Right? And working with Sophia was definitely like a moment of trust for me because I had signed up for it while I was traveling. So I wasn't making like any money.
Mhm.
I didn't have like anything really set up for me when I came home either. Um, but I definitely knew like in my heart that I wanted the support and the guidance when I came home. So I'm super happy that I invested in myself regarding
Invest in your like future and higher self. Way to go.
that.
Yeah. Total trust, full body alignment, yeses.
Mhm.
Okay, well that's kind of interesting. I know sometimes it's so hard for people to like take jumps and take risks when they feel like they're not there yet. Do you think that there's this is like a question that I didn't prepare you for. It's honestly just coming from my head right now, but have you ever felt like your bodies kind of aren't all in the same place? Like sometimes your physical body is really amazing, but then your mental and emotional body is like totally kaputs. Or vice versa, you feel spiritually great, but sometimes your physical body is whatever and your finances are blah. And it's like, which body do you think is ultimately guiding? Which one do you think has like the most say in what's going to happen?
That's a really good question. I personally think that the body leads, but I think it also is governed by the spiritual too. Like, I guess your energetic body. Um, I say I think the body leads because I often make my decisions from like the way my body feels. Um, I do have a practice where I will like just talk to my body and like ask, is this like a yes or a no?
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't get an answer right away. I almost feel like I don't know if I've ever felt them connected. Like they're all kind of staggered and led.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel,
Yeah, but
yeah. Those moments of when all your bodies are together is like, I feel it's always like after a breath work session or like a deep journey and you like, it's like, cool, we're all together. But then they slowly like go back to their like wherever they were on the hierarchy of bodies and whatever. Yeah. I
exactly.
don't know if I think everyone's probably a little different, right? Like more people are
Yeah,
more connected to the crown, more people are more connected to the root and just like starting wherever you're at. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about like where to meet someone. And it's not the same place for everyone. It's
yeah.
very, I need to make space to ponder this question more. Like,
I know, me too. But I've definitely been feeling that lately. So it's just interesting that you asked that question because, yeah, I've been wondering like what steps to take next. And it's not always clear, but I've been granted so much spaciousness
mm,
that I want to see that as like the next thing.
mm,
Like my time to just like have nothing on my plate and just like experience life. Like
yeah,
and then like allowing smoke.
same. I'm in my receiving era. I
Mhm.
am just stepping back as much as possible, while also like not stepping off totally. But
Yeah.
I feel you. I wonder if this is like a conscious woman thing. We're all like, you know what, we boss babed a little too hard. Let's retire early for a season and let's come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, with all your spaciousness, what do
Mhm.
you like sort of see for yourself in the next like 3 years slash like 10 years? Let us help. Can we help manifest anything for you, even though you're making more allowance here?
Yeah. I don't know about the specific timeline of
Mhm.
things, but in like the near future, I'm definitely open to building my massage therapy practice back up
Mhm.
because that is something that I had to let go of when I decided to travel. Um, and also building my Reiki practice as well. I think those are like my two starting like stepping stones. I would eventually like to start attuning people as well. Um, yeah. And I I feel very passionate about breath and cold exposure right now. Um, I'm still figuring out how I want to offer that. Um, I would like to do it in person, um, obviously for cold exposure, but for more specifically for breath work. But yeah, I still have this like deep craving for connection. And I think a lot of people have it too, just based off of like everything we've been through as a collective over like the last couple of years. Um, so really just like bringing that back to the forefront in my life. Um, yeah, building like my own community. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you, when you say build your massage and your Reiki practice, what do you do? Like, what's your steps for that? I'm sure there's like a lot of young entrepreneurs here that I get that question a lot. Like, how do you find clients? And sometimes I'm like, I don't really know. They just find me, and I know that's not good advice for you, but what do you do?
Um, I would almost say the same thing from my experience right now.
Just
Um,
be a vibe.
yeah, like definitely putting myself out there has been the biggest thing. Um, just networking, going to things or like events that I'm interested in and connecting with people, seeing if there's a way for me to be of service to them with my magic, or even vice versa. Like I'm always open to doing like exchanges too, which I have done a lot in the past.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and really the biggest thing that I've been working on is building my presence online.
Mhm.
Um, I felt like a little bit blocked from being seen for a very long time. And I think the yoga teacher training actually really helps with that. I could feel so many layers like coming off of me.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that also came with a very safe and open like community. So yeah, just find those places that you can be yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as like a practice ground for the real world.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, yeah, Sarah just said, girl, your presence in person, like the first time I met you, I think you smiled so much, but I'm like, you didn't really, you didn't talk to me. But I was like, wow, she's just so lovely to have around. She's so happy and smiley. And now it's like your throat chakra has just fully unlocked and you're really like interrupting to like share your opinion and your point, not interrupting, but stepping
Yeah.
in to share your perspective. And that's so powerful. And it really is, I think that's what we forget what trainings are. That's what school is. That's actually writing a thing for Soul School today. And I was like, wow, the like benefits of so many things I learned in post-secondary just because I got to practice, presenting, aka pitching. I got to practice like reading out loud, aka like sharing my thoughts to like a bigger audience. Like you get to practice all these things that like it's not often after you get with your friends you're like, hey, you guys all want to get together and like share PowerPoint presentations or whatever. It's just like the practice ground is less and you end up in these masterminds or like these other groups. But schools that are dedicated just to that, like there is something really beautiful about there is something a little beautiful about the structure of schooling. And okay, you have subjects, you have it consistently, you practice, you're tested, you fail, you work on it, you try again, and you get to tangibly see your growth as opposed to just experimenting and failing. But I don't know. I contradict myself. I contradict myself a lot, I think.
I think there's value in both for sure. Because sometimes you just have to do the real thing. That's a
Yeah.
scary. Yeah.
You just need to like honestly, the sooner you start, you're gonna suck the first like 10 times, probably, most likely. But like you will get better. Even if you don't even try to get better, you just will, because we're born to evolve and adapt into like better beings. And although it's not like foraging food anymore, it's more like how to like present yourself so that you can get a better job and like have a better lifestyle or whatever. It's like yeah, you almost can't resist getting better each day. It's just happening. Even on the days that you think you're the worst, I think those are the days you grow the most if you just sit with it. Humans are fascinating. Like they're honestly, I think the hardest things to kill. Like we are like indestructible emotionally. I feel like we can go through a lot emotionally. Our bodies are actually quite frail. I like every time I cut myself, I'm like, oh my God, delicate little creature should take care of you more. That's funny. Okay, I don't want to I know time goes by so quickly. Tell us one of like the best worst experiences you had with Soul School, or you can even just have in your life. World is your
Okay.
oyster.
Um, okay, I think the best experience that I had with Soul School was Actually, our ecstatic dance that we did before brunch, yeah, the cacao ceremony before was just so beautiful and so heart-opening. I don't think I've ever experienced it with ecstatic dance. So the two together, it really brought me to like a past version of myself, but more healthy. Like not really expressed, if that makes sense. But um yeah, I don't know. That was one of my favorite experiences with
But
everyone.
I'm sorry, yes, my face, because your best worst experience.
Oh, best
That's why I'm like,
worst.
yo, I DJ'd that ecstatic dance.
Oh,
Was that
my
your
best.
best worst experience? I know I messed up on the sound. I know I messed up on the song.
Oh no, sorry. I thought that was like singularly my best. But I think um hmm, if it was like a best worst, I would have to go back to when I climbed Acatenango in Guatemala. That was probably like the best and worst thing I've ever done.
Many people have this response to that experience.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do yourself a favor and breathe. That is my best advice.
And
Um,
what?
and breathe.
And breathe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my best advice. I don't think I would have been able to climb it as gracefully as I did if it wasn't for the teacher training beforehand, because I was just in such a different like mindset. Um, and I also just had all these like tools and practices that I was physically like tapping into. Like I was giving myself Reiki. I was speaking positive affirmations because there's only so many words you can speak when you're like huffing and puffing and the air is only getting thinner. Um, yeah, I was honestly tapping into my ujjayi breath, like
Mm-hmm.
counting myself in and out, and next thing I knew, I was at the top. But that was super challenging for me because I had a pretty crappy experience with altitude sickness when I was in Ecuador, and I was afraid that the same thing was going to happen to me climbing up Acatenango, but luckily it didn't. And it's so funny because when we got up there, like everyone was fine. And one of our like Sherpas or leaders that had brought us up was like, this is like one of the first groups I've had in a while that hasn't felt like any sickness. And he was saying that altitude sickness can be like a sickness of the mind. And that really resonated with me because when I was in Ecuador, when I started feeling the symptoms, my mind took over. And I feel like that just exacerbated everything. Like it made me feel so much worse because I thought I wasn't going to be like okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then like I was. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't let my mind like spiral when those like symptoms started to happen again, running back to Tango. And I was just like, okay, actually I channeled you. It's just a sensation. It's temporary.
Putting it on a shirt. That's like the eighth time I've heard it. It's going on a shirt now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it did go away. Like I had a little bit of tingling in my fingers. It didn't go up my arm or to my chest this time. And it went away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we are really hard to kill. And once you accept that as a truth, you're like, oh, this can either just be an uncomfortable sensation, or I can freak out about it because evidently you're connected to this idea that it's going to harm you and lead you to a non-existence. But it's like, we really are quite indestructible. I love that.
Mhm.
I had my dad for Father's Day, and I'm like, yo, your posture's whack. You need to fix it. Like, do you ever just see people walking down the street and I'm like, I just want to pull your shoulders back and dig my knee into your spine, but like socially unacceptable. But with my
Yeah.
father, it was acceptable. I was like, lay down on the ground. And this man laid down like this on his back. He was curled up in fetal position, and he was like whining, like almost about to cry. And I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, like just take a deep breath. And he took one deep breath and it opened up and we heard a crack. And he started to be like, oh, like leaning into the mind again. I'm like, no, take another deep breath. And he opened up and another crack. And he did it about 5 times. We got 7 cracks. By the end, he was like this. And then he stood up and he was literally like this. And I was
Wow.
like, imagine if you stayed stuck to the sensation of pain, which is actually bringing you more pain, instead of surrendering to discomfort, which actually leads you, well, essentially it's to equilibrium. There's an equanimous feeling, but to pleasure, to joy, to ecstasy, to detachment. And yeah, it was like just so amazing to watch it like right before your eyes. And especially with the self, when you're like, wow, I see this thought that's about to sabotage my whole experience. Interesting, I'll let it pass. And cool, my fingers are tingly. Like, cool, my fingers are witchy. Maybe I'll cast a spell. And like, you can change the whole dialogue to it actually being
Yeah.
like, do I actually have superpowers? I've been ignoring my superpowers this whole time because you think your foot's asleep, but really you can shoot like lasers out. I don't know. My mind goes into weird places. But yeah, so powerful, so beautiful. So tell us what feels the best about your current career path. What's changed? Because I don't think, I mean, you're still in body work, you're still a healer, but how has Soul School kind of brought more clarity to your future destination?
It's definitely showed me that where I want to like go, or like what I want to offer to the world is like possible because it's already being done so beautifully. And I think it really just gave me that extra push that like why not me? Like I can start asking myself that, like, why can't I teach these things too? Yeah.
Especially when you're so freaking qualified. That's it with beautiful women. We are being empowered now, but I think the thing that inspired me the most is my ex-partner. He just started hosting stuff as like a personal trainer, coach, nutritionist. He had no experience, no schooling, no anything. And he was selling programs for $3,000 to $5,000 and selling them. And I was like, the only reason I'm not charging that much is because I don't think I'm worth that much, even though I have literally thousands of more of like documented education than you do. And it was such, again, a tangible moment of realizing, oh, I'm the reason. Women are the reason we don't get paid more money because we simply don't ask. Men get paid
Yeah.
more because they ask. And it's just that easy. Just one time they say, nope, I should get paid more. And you realize that the other person's like, huh, good, you called my bluff. Like they want to be called out, but we're the ones just sitting there like watching other uneducated people just do what you're doing and charging so much. That should be our biggest motivation. Should be like all we really need. Because yeah,
Yeah.
you're so qualified and competent. And like as long as there's people not doing yoga, there's always going to be an industry for wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank God for everyone not doing yoga right now. We love you. We'll see you soon. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Um, right now, one thing that I am working on is building this like space, or really I would like to refer to it as like a toolbox of practices, because like you said, there's just so many ways to cultivate presence. And I guess the way that I see presence is like stepping into like a state of flow, your flow state.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think like the practices that I've been using have been like body work, Reiki, breath and cold, and yoga. And those are tools that I want to offer people as well so that they can really tap into like their own presence and reconnect with like their wholeness. Because there's been so many times where I've been working with clients and they they just are disconnected from their body on like all levels, like mind, body, spirit. Um, and they just have a very hard time like connecting with like what they're feeling and describing like how it affects them and things like that. And I just from my own experiences, I think it's important to have that connection with yourself. So
Sure.
I would love to create a space for people to do just that. Yeah, that's like my trajectory right now that I'm working towards
I love
building
that.
that safe container for connection.
Connection to the self, though, is
Mhm.
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite quote is your body is your business. And it's
Mm,
like, like when people are like, I don't know. I'm like, well, I don't know. I have a good hypothesis, but like you are really the only one that will ever know. So
mhm.
sit with that and sit with yourself and ask yourself, but then also respond to yourself. I think we sometimes get lost in the, oh, I'm asking myself, da, 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 but it's like, okay. And then what did you say back to that? Like genuinely, not from the head, from the heart, or wherever you're feeling it in your body. Like I love that you have this practice of talking to your body. I talk to my body too all the time, especially when it's fluctuating through phases where I'm like, oh, you're bigger, you're smaller, you're weaker, you're strong. And I'm in all modes being like, look at you today. Look what you're doing today. Doing something different. Wasn't planning on this, but like, cool. Look at you. Janelle had a question for you. Is there any advice you'd give for future students slash students that have signed up for our current YTT?
Future student. Yes. Be so present during your time in that container because it goes by so quickly and there are going to be moments where you're pushed to your edge and it sucks. Like it kind of does, but it is just such a transformational experience that you're going to want to do it all over again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. Week one, everyone's like, woo! Week two, everyone's like, oh. Week three, everyone's like, what? Fuck. And week four is like, oh, I wish it wasn't over.
Yeah.
And that literally is just the cycle. And we just are like, yep, you're excited. Just wait till week two. Oh, you're confused. Just wait till week three. Oh, you're kind of mad at us. That's okay. We're almost at week four. Oh, yay, gratitude, gratitude. Oh, thank you so much for chatting with us. I will see you this weekend. Yeah. I'm so excited. Can't wait for nature with you, babes.
Me too.
And yeah, if you guys want an amazing massage, body work, she did some work on me in the Costa Rica retreat, and it really was like there was a lot more happening than just body work. She informed me. She's like, did you ever think about this and this? And like, I literally learned something new about my body, which is what I love about body workers when they educate you so that you can also take the power back into your own hands. Yeah, you're back in the city for how long? Are you traveling anytime soon?
Um, Not that I know of. I think I'm gonna lay down some roots for a little bit
Amazing.
as
So
I
yeah,
still think.
catch her in GTA. She's the
Yes.
best. Kentess loves you. Thanks, Kentess. She is the best. All right, we will see you soon. We love
Yeah.
you. Make sure you
Bye.
follow Celena for all your body work and biohacking needs. Okay, ciao, babe.
Bye.
Hey, are you still here?